none of us learned how to regulate our own nervous systems. When we are dysregulated, we are not actively in the driver's seat of what's occurring. And if nobody taught us how to get into the driver's seat, we are effectively out of control. Our systems are so perfectly working that in order for us to maintain some semblance of safety, we have to have some kind of semblance of I'm in control and I'm going to be okay. And so if I don't have that inside, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to brilliantly look for that outside of myself. When I was young, I learned that if I can be in control to the highest degree of what's going on in my schoolwork, for example, if I can strive and really gain control of what I need to do to study to get a good grade, then I'm going to have some kind of control in the internal chaos.
Welcome to You Make Sense. This podcast is a manual to understanding your human experience so that you can navigate the world with freedom, ease, empowerment, and create the life that you desire. Remember, you make sense, all parts, always.
Do you ever find yourself incessantly keeping your house tidy? Meaning you always have to wipe the counters down or make sure that the space is really well kept. Or maybe for others of you, you find yourself kind of incessantly checking your investments or your bank accounts over and over and over again, just to make sure everything's okay. Or maybe you notice that when you're out to dinner, maybe a double date with your partner and another couple, that you're really on top of what your partner is doing, what they're saying, how many questions they're asking your friend about the thing that happened in your life. And then maybe you notice later in the car on the ride home, you happen to share those things that your partner wasn't doing exactly right. Or maybe you notice that with your health, you are really on top of every single sensation you feel in your body. Oh no, does this mean I'm getting sick with this sore throat? Or I'm incessantly going to the doctor. Or maybe I keep my body in a particular way and I'm always getting on the scale, or I work out even when I'm exhausted. Those are just some examples of what it is like to be in a position in our lives where we need to use control as a form of safety. So many of us are subtly doing this. I wanted to start with those examples because if I just said to you, do you find yourself controlling? Are you a controlling person? A lot of us would say, I don't think so. I don't think that I'm overtly a control freak. But in so many ways, a lot of us are doing this subtly in our lives. And so we want to look at this with curiosity. Are there ways that I'm controlling for my own experience? And by the way, usually when this goes outside of ourselves, so I'm not just controlling me and the way that I navigate the world, but what occurs is we start to project that out onto the people that are close to us. So our children, our partner, our parents, our caregivers, our purpose, your work itself, our pets, whoever's in proximity to you. And this is a really common experience. If you find yourself in this place of wanting to control, or not even just wanting, it's an impulse, like I must, and you may not even notice you're doing it. My goal is that this episode really supports you to kindly begin inquiring within to see, is this happening for me? But if it is a clue that we are lacking internal safety. You know, this is a brilliant adaptive strategy. So if I had experiences in my life where I actually wasn't safe, maybe in my childhood, in college, and, in a past relationship, I wasn't safe and I experienced traumas of some kind. And when I say trauma, I don't want you to just think I'm just referring to abuse or neglect. I'm also talking about experiences where we were chronically misattuned with, or experiences maybe in your childhood where you had parents that were stressed all the time. So it left you feeling dysregulated, or your parents were worried all the time. So it left you feeling worried. All of those experiences I've named and so many more leave us internally not feeling in control. And, the thing is, none of us learned how to regulate our own nervous systems. When we are dysregulated, we are not actively in the driver's seat of what's occurring. And if nobody taught us how to get into the driver's seat, we are effectively out of control. You are in the back seat of the vehicle that lives inside of you, which is your nervous system, and it is self-driving. And that means that you aren't in control of what's occurring. So for all of these reasons, our systems are so perfectly working that in order for us to maintain some semblance of safety, we have to have some kind of semblance of I'm in control and I'm going to be okay. And so if I don't have that inside, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to brilliantly look for that outside of myself. And we develop these really fantastic internal protective parts of ourselves whose job is to ensure that we don't experience the same type of out of control that we felt in the past. In my own life, I had some very strong protective parts because of my experiences that I had, especially early in life, that were very unsafe, and I developed some really powerful protectors. Now, the level of protection that these parts will do in terms of controlling will be dependent on the level of out of control we experience inside. So because I had so much trauma going on, when I was young, I learned that if I can be in control to the highest degree of what's going on in my schoolwork, for example, if I can strive and really gain control of what I need to do to study to get a good grade, then I'm going to have some kind of control in the internal chaos. But it bled out further than that. It meant for me from I don't know what grade it was, 6th grade till 12th grade, literally. But by the way, I grew up in a tiny, tiny, tiny town. So 6 through 12, my graduating class was 40 people, so really small. That is all to preface in saying that from 6th grade to 12th grade, I was president of my class every single year. You know why I was actually doing that? Yes, I really feel like a leader and I love supporting other people, and it gave me a sense of control because my home was so out of control and so unsafe. And if you ask the people that I grew up with, and likely if some of them saw me right now, they would be so surprised at what they were seeing. Because when I was younger, what I learned to do was, in that term control freak that has kind of a very negative connotation to it, that was me. I lacked softness or flexibility or fluidity, and it was sort of like my way or the highway. And it was like that in school, very, very, very much. And people would make fun of me and say things about that. I mean, teasing in a sweet way, but also not so sweet. They were like, Sarah's a lot. She's a lot to deal with. She's not flexible whatsoever. What was actually going on was I had this part that was so out of control that I had to control something. And by the way, this extended beyond just what was happening externally, like in my class. It extended to me. So it meant controlling what my body looked like. I really focused on being in great shape all the time. So when I played soccer as a kid in the off season, I would run every single day because I wanted to be ready for the season to control as much as I possibly could. And then I developed OCD. So I would control via OCD. If I could have, say this thought 50 times, then things were going to be okay. If I could check the lock this many times, things would be okay. All of it was about control. And what I want to tell you is, as we begin this process of healing and we start to create internal safety inside of ourselves, then those controlling parts mellow out a little, but they might still be there. So maybe you don't relate to some of the things that I, just named and was saying. They might be more subtle, like they became when I was older. And subtle version of that was, I remember the house that I bought with my ex-husband. I remember my aunt came to visit, and I just got these drapes. After I had, the drapes were closed at night, and then I opened them in the morning. I remember a decade ago, I would fix every morning the pleats on the drapes perfectly. And I remember her saying, Sarah, it doesn't really matter. And I remember thinking at the time, I may have been 12 years ago or something, a long time ago, I didn't really fully understand what she was saying because I was so early still in my journey. And what I knew was I can't not do this. And that's because it wasn't about those drapes. It was about my need for everything externally to be perfect, because if it was pristine, it would give me some semblance of being ordered internally, because I felt so out of order or not okay inside of myself. And I wish, by the way, you could see what my house looks like right now. We're filming inside of my house. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not, just know there's stuff absolutely everywhere right now. The only way that I can tolerate that and it be okay is because I have internal safety. And the result of gaining internal safety is that then I can navigate life and my world and my experience with so much greater ease. And that's really the goal that we all want, so that I'm not a prisoner to needing to control myself or others. I'm actually able to be free to be me, and I'm actually able to allow the people around me to be who they are too. And again, this can only happen when we begin coming into internal safety. Science confirms that it's not possible to have a full, happy, fulfilling life unless we are predominantly experiencing it from regulation. Your nervous system has the power to either keep you stuck living a smaller life than you feel called to, or to unlock the life you are here to live, so that you can step into the fullness that you are here for and feel better in your body in the process. This work not only supports us to embody our purpose, it supports us to have the relationships we desire to live the fully expressed version of life that we are here for. Navigating Your Nervous System is a 6-week online program I created to support you to harness the power of your nervous system so that you can be in the driver's seat of your life and heal the past in the process. Over the course of 6 weeks, I'm going to give you tangible somatic therapeutic tools to get into the driver's seat of this system so that you can step towards the life that you desire and so deeply deserve. You can join the waitlist for limited time money off the program. Check the show notes to join. So first, I just want to talk about some ways that we can tend to control ourselves. And I also want to really address the subtle ways that we do that. So we can use food as a way to control, either restricting food or binging food. I also want to name, especially now that we're in a time of people really becoming more conscious and aware of the importance of health, that what I have found is a lot of people have these low-key, subtle protectors where they're not over the top, they're subtle. And when we think about longevity and doing things that really support our health, that people become very controlling and rigid around it. Like there's a birthday party happening at 8 p.m. Well, I don't eat past 5 p.m., so I cannot go to the birthday. Or even though I don't really have the finances, I am not going to miss getting this NAD IV because if I don't get it, the world's going to fall apart. I can never have a seed oil ever in my life because it creates inflammation, so I avoid it at all costs. I cannot skip the sauna at night. You get the idea. There's a rigidity to it. And whenever there's rigidity, we want to get curious. So that's one way that we can have control or be in control of our own experience as a way to gain safety. Others of us, we might notice that we control our body, meaning we control our weight, or we control the way that we exercise as a way to gain a sense of safety. Those listening who relate to this, we really overthink everything. So before you communicate anything to someone else, you think it in your head like 50 times. I'm going to say this thing to my boss, but wait, should I say it or should I not say it? I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want them to get mad. Why am I doing that? I want to control the outcome. So we think to ourselves, if I rehearse it 10 trillion times in my head, maybe I can be sure of what the outcome can be. But here's the thing, if someone else is involved, we don't have control of what is going to happen. And by the way, I know this might be triggering, I'm going to say it on purpose, is that we have very little control of anything. I don't know what's going to happen tonight, and I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow to do the rest of this filming. I hope that I am, but I don't know. And I cannot surrender into that unless I have an internal experience of safety. So those are just some of the ways we control ourselves. I want to talk about relationships and how we can try to control. This is a really common place where we can tend to do this. You know that example I gave of being out to dinner with your partner? I know there are a lot of you who relate to this. It's something that I certainly relate very much to. It was a big part of my own journey that I see my partner as an extension of me. So therefore, what I am going to do is I'm going to micromanage or control them because my biggest fear is hurting someone or making someone feel bad. So I have to make sure my partner never, ever, ever, ever does that. So if you notice yourself doing that, you're going to the parent-teacher conference and you're like, I swear to God, if my partner swears during this parent-teacher conference, we are going to have a really big problem. Maybe they swear a lot. And then they do. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the world for you. Or you're noticing like they didn't actually compliment my friend on that promotion they got, and they knew they got the promotion, and my friend know that they know, and now they're not considerate. And so therefore I'm with a partner that's not considerate. I can't believe they didn't do that. And then we say something, not super sounding controlling, but we're like, hey, yeah, I just noticed at dinner you didn't do that thing. And, I'm just wondering why, which is really a subtle way that we're controlling. So that's one thing that we can find ourselves doing with our partner. Another is being codependent with them. So if I am the rescuer in a codependent dynamic, what I am actually doing is, in the disregarding of my own needs, becoming invisible, centering them, this is me actually gaining a sense of control. Because if I feel like they need me so much, they're helpless without me, maybe they won't leave. And if they won't leave, then I'll have a sense of control over being abandoned. I'm going to stop it from happening. That's a brilliant way to try to gain control when we don't feel in control. Another thing we can do is keep our partner in a cage. So a part of you, your adult self, might say like, I want my partner to have a full life. I want them to be totally free to be themselves. I want them to have really close friendships and a career they're really passionate about and close to their family. But then when they lean into doing those things, it might threaten the parts of you that feel that as a child felt unloved or not the most important. And so all of a sudden I notice myself kind of putting my partner in a cage. And we can control in a lot of manipulative ways that I know that word manipulative might sound very strong. You're like, I definitely don't manipulate. But our parts can do this. I want to just normalize some of this. Can do this in really subtle ways. Like maybe your partner is going away on, a trip with their friends, and it's just a trip with their friends. Your partners aren't invited. And they tell you they're going for 7 days, and you might say, oh, it seems just like a long time. I don't know, like it's a lot going on with the kids, or, I'm going through this hard thing, and just, I don't know, it feels like a lot. Or all of a sudden I'm really focused on my own helplessness, and I really show that to them because I know the more helpless I am, they might change the trip and make it 5 days instead of 7. That's a subtle manipulation that I'm doing as a way to control, because my system is saying there might not be enough love to go around. If you choose someone else, that might be more important than me. Or if you're passionate about your career, that might be more important than me. So we can try to keep our partner small as a way to control. So now I want to talk about how we can tend to do this in our purpose. This is really common and certainly something that I did. We can really try to control timelines. Like this should be happening faster than it's happening. Or if I just try to really grip onto things and push other stuff aside, by the way, like hanging out with friends, focusing on having a full life, a relationship, then I can gain a sense of control over what happens in my purpose. We can try to control outcomes, like how many sales did we get? How much funding did we get? How many signups did we get? How many customers do we have? Whatever. How's it going with revenue, streams? And I'm hyper aware of it. I'm looking at it 3 times a day and hyper focused on that rather than what drives my passion for purpose in the first place. All of that is a way to control. Also, not internally listening. So instead of being able to listen to the rhythms of our own system and follow the timeline that wants to transpire, I know I just talked about timelines, but follow the evolution of our purpose, we can tend to rush beyond what our system is ready for. And that is an experience of trying to control. Another is, let's say you have a team. I don't know if you own your own company or maybe you manage a team, that we can micromanage people. So everybody has their own role, but instead of letting them really live and breathe in that and take ownership, I'm overseeing them more than they need to be overseen, or I'm at least energetically connected. I'm thinking about everybody else's stuff and not my own. Why? Because I'm so afraid to relinquish control, or I'm just chronically worried. Like, I know things went well last year, but I'm positive they won't go well this year. Why? Again, because I don't have that internal safety. So those are just some of the ways that we can control. Of course, this extends to your kids, to your pets, to everybody around you, if you are doing it to yourself. And again, it's all resulting from the lack of internal safety. So here's the thing. To let go, to surrender, here's the deal. You cannot surrender into nothing. We have to surrender into safety within. I mean, think about this just for a second. Imagine I asked you to jump out of an airplane without a parachute. Would you do that? I certainly wouldn't do that. I would say, no, thank you. I'd rather stay in this plane forever. Meaning, I would rather continue to control everything in my life forever than jump out of a plane without a parachute. And so when people talk about this concept of you just have to let go, you just have to surrender, I cannot let go if I don't have safety inside. So what we have to do is to create internal safety. We do this through regulation of our nervous system. That's why that work is so profoundly important. I have 2 programs that are focused entirely on the nervous system. All of my programs have components of that because it's a foundation of all healing. It's a foundation of a full, happy life. It's certainly the foundation of being able to let go in life too. We'll put those in the show notes for you in case you're interested in having a look at what they are. But I guide people through a step-by-step process on how we do this. How do we actually regulate ourselves? How do we create safety inside, which heals the past in the present? My friends, your external world is a representation of your internal world. And if I am controlling everything outside of myself, that means that I am not feeling safe inside. So the more I regulate my nervous system, my external world begins to match that. There is a greater ease externally. Because I am safe inside, that means I can let go of what's occurring around me. Now, as we regulate, we're also accessing our adult selves. So the work here is that I have to connect to the younger parts of myself who were made to feel unsafe and out of control and become the parent they never had and needed. And again, you might have had loving parents, but they couldn't do this for you. And so my job is to give that to those younger parts. I've got you. Don't be afraid. I've got you. Don't be afraid. I've got you. We do this again and again. It's real relationship building. And the more that we do that, the more anchored we are in our adult selves, we become, I say this all the time, but we become like the steady oak tree. We become like the mountain. We are unwavering in our okayness, in our safety inside. Here's the other thing. We have to show, not tell, our nervous system and our protective parts that it is safe to let go. It is safe to surrender. So we do all this work of becoming adult us, and what we're essentially doing is we're regulating our adult us, and we're asking the protective parts to trust fall into us. Like, just let go into me. And parts are like, I'm definitely not doing that. There was never anyone to let go into. If I let go, everything's going to fall apart. If I don't micromanage my partner, our relationship will fall apart. If I don't micromanage my kids, they're going to die. And I know that might sound to you extreme, but to our parts, it can feel like that. If I don't know where they are, like a helicopter parent at all times, they're not going to be okay. So if you think that you're going to be able to just stop controlling yourself or your work or your people, that easily it won't happen. We have to build the trust of the protective part. So in your own life, I want you to think about what is one area of my life that I'm controlling for me personally. Do I control the way my body looks? Do I control my food intake? Do I control what my house looks like? Do I control the thoughts I have before I say them? Pick one area. And then what I want you to do is see what would it be like to let go just a little bit. You know what that started with me? I'm going to give you some examples. Number 1. With my house, do you know what it started with? It started with, can I leave dishes in the sink? I can't tell you how hard that was for me. My parts were like, I can't relax if it's like this, right? Because that was a way to control. And I said, I know it's uncomfortable. Let me show you that this is safe and nothing bad happens. What did that look like in terms of my body? It looked like not exercising when I was really exhausted, or listening to my body, which meant sometimes I would just go for a walk and not do these really intense weightlifting workouts. And I had to tolerate feeling like I was doing nothing and show my system, look how this actually feels good to do it different and to listen. When it came to food, I had to tolerate what is it like when I gave like the example of like eating before bed one night because I'm having a fun night with a friend or my partner, and we're eating, I don't know, some not great food at 11 p.m. And yeah, do I wake up feeling not great the next day? Sure. Do I do that very infrequently, like, I don't know, once every blue moon, a few months? Yeah. If there's a moment where I'm like, I actually want to, I feel like this would be fun to do with a friend or a partner, whatever, I'm going to do it. Why? Because I want to show my system nothing bad happens. We don't die. It's okay to let go. It's okay. And by the way, my friends, it's okay to have fun. When you are in a position of having parts of you control all the time, it robs us of joy and play and fun, because what are joy and play and fun all about? Surrender. And so what I want you to do, think about for yourself, how can I orient towards letting go control? But really, how can I orient towards pleasure, joy, and fun? A little bit more. And then in your relationship, can you think of the same way? When you notice yourself wanting to control your partner, control an outcome, how can I let go a little bit? I'm about to tell them what they did wrong at that dinner. Can I inhibit that just a little bit and tell them what they did right? There's going to be a part that says, don't do that. Absolutely don't do that. Can I see if I can do that and lean instead into joy and pleasure and love, and notice how nothing bad happens, and do it in your purpose too? And in fact, what you're going to notice is your company doesn't fall apart. I could have sworn my protective part was like, the whole company will just crumble if you don't know what everyone on your team is, all 8 or 9 people are doing on your team at all times. Well, that's no way to live, right? Talk about stressful. So what I had to do was titrate letting go. And that had nothing. I have amazing people. I'm partial, but I think some of the most amazing people that are on my team, I trust them so much. But those parts of me were like, it's not safe. Everything will fall apart. We do it again and again and again until you become like me and you get to the point where you just don't even know what's going on besides shooting this podcast. Who knows? I'm not sure what I'm doing next week. My point is, I could actually let go, but that took time of working with these parts. So that's what I want you to think about. How can you begin doing that? One titrated moment at a time, that you show, not tell, the parts of yourself. It is safe to let go because you can trust fall into me. But you must do the work of becoming that you that is inherently inside of you, who can hold the parts that were never held. If you find yourself confused about why you can't seem to live the life you're here to live, I want you to know there are reasons why you're finding yourself stuck. And that means there are things that we can do to begin shifting this. I've created an entirely free workbook for you that's going to teach you about the system living inside of your body that is responsible for your entire experience. This system also holds the key to unlocking the life you desire. It's called your autonomic nervous system. If you're interested in learning more and you want free tools that are backed by science, download my free workbook called How to Gain Control Over How You Feel. Link in show notes to get yours. So now we're going to get to the Q&A portion of this episode. I want to hear your voice and see your face. And what I mean by that is I would love to answer any questions that you have. We love receiving audio questions and video questions, which is what you'll see me getting to today. So if you have any for me, we're going to link in the show notes exactly how you can do that. It is super easy and simple, and it just feels so good to hear so many of your voices. So I hope to hear from you too. Let's get to the first question that we have today.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for your podcast. It's really helped me a lot in my life. I wanted to ask you, before getting married and having kids, I feel like I was able to create for myself a certain sense of order, both with the way I kept my things and how I led my life. And after getting married and having kids, suddenly I feel like everything is comes into this chaos mode a lot of times, and it's really hard to get out of that. And I feel like it came so suddenly because it's something I thought that I worked on, and I just fall back into this childhood space of unpredictability and chaos. And I really want to stop that cycle. And I would love to hear what tools there are for breaking that cycle of chaos and unpredictability.
Well, the first thing that I want to acknowledge and name, that is a person who is in partnership and a person who is a parent. You have so much going on, including your own life. And so I don't want to minimize how much that is. And When you have a family, there is a lot of chaos. I mean, I'm looking down at a pile of shoes in front of me, and it just made me think of your home. And there's a lot of metaphoric and physical shoes at the front door, right? Everyone's coming in. There's shoes everywhere, and there's dishes everywhere, and there's loud sounds everywhere because there's people all over the place, and there's kids throwing spaghetti on the ground, and there's homework that can't be found, and there's somebody who's crying because the other kid pushed them over because they took their lollipop or their tooth. The tooth fairy was supposed to come and take, and the tooth fairy didn't take it. And oh my gosh, I forgot because I was working late last night. What am I going to do? Oh, it's a lot. Yeah. So let's just name that. It is a lot. It is a lot. The most important thing as a parent, one of the most important things, is your regulated nervous system. Because your regulated nervous system is the anchor for the whole family. The more regulated you are, the more regulated the home is. That is really, really true. When I look at friends in my life, and one of my friends, my closest friend, actually two of them, one's in LA, one's in Flagstaff. They both have kids. Talk about my friend in Flagstaff. One of my dearest friends, and she and her husband are friends of mine, are obviously very close friends of mine, both therapists. They take this work really serious. And all that is to say, they're very regulated people. So their home and their kids are very regulated. There's a peace inside of their space. Why? Because their nervous systems are leading. Now, I have other friends who are equally as loving, love their kids just as much, but they haven't done that work. And so those parents' nervous systems are quite dysregulated. So do you know what their houses are like? It is filled with a lot of dysregulation. Both parents love the kids just as much. Both parents are just as wonderful and amazing, and they have different shapes of their nervous system. So the number one most important thing we can do is you can do as a parent is bring regulation to your own nervous system. And that creates a greater ease, which is hard for loving parents because this requires you taking time to focus on you. That is not selfish. That is one of the most generous things you can do for your family. So really looking at with your partner, how can I take time away? Even if it's like, hey, when you get home from work, if one of you is staying home, the other one says, I need 30 minutes to go for a walk by myself, like with nobody, not even with you. Can you please take care of everybody while I do that so I can really ground myself? All of these things are really important. The second thing that I want to name is that when you have children, what occurs is all of the unresolved traumas from our own childhood begin to resurface, usually when your child reaches the numeric age you were at when you experienced whatever it is that you experienced. Why? Because your nervous system has a threat detector. It's looking out into your life to see if you're safe or not. It resources your past to decide. So if your child is 4, it's going to remind you of when you were 4. What was it like when you were 4? Oh my gosh, that's when my parents got divorced and everything became very chaotic, or our house burned down, or that flood happened, or my grandma got sick and my mom wasn't really available for me. And all of a sudden, the thing that was unresolved starts to percolate inside of you as your child reaches that age. And so if home was a chaotic thing when you were young, as children arrive, then home becomes a chaotic thing because my nervous system is superimposing the past on the present. So it's really important to do parts work here to address and get to know the parts of you that are getting activated. What is it reminding them of? And how can I work with those parts to show them, oh, my love, the past is actually over and I'm here for you now and I can give you what you never got in this present moment. Through that, you heal the past, which is such a wonderful gift. Another example I just want to give is sometimes when I'm working with parents who have a kid who is struggling to regulate their anger, frustration, they'll say to me like, I'm so confused. When my 8-year-old gets angry and they don't know what to do with their anger, so they start yelling or they throw something, I freeze up. I'm actually scared of my 8-year-old or my 4-year-old. And they don't understand what's happening. Well, what's occurring is that is triggering for you what it was like in your childhood home. And maybe your mother, your father, or your sibling got really angry. And so your child getting angry is reminding you of that. And all of a sudden, you're not your adult self, you're a little part. So the more we do this parts work, the more that it changes and the regulation of your own nervous system. Let's get to the next question we have today.
I'm aware that I have control issues as I live abroad. It's my responsibility to take care of my parents back at home. So I go home and I take control by helping them and getting their lives in order financially and health-wise and nutrition-wise, and knowing at the same time that I am bypassing my own needs in an unhappy marriage, and it's a way of escaping from my own issues. So my question is, how do I stop doing that and focus on what I need and what I need to do for myself and stop taking control?
Yeah, so you have great awareness around a lot of what's occurring, is that I'm using the controlling of my parents and helping them, rescuing them really, as a way to avoid what's actually happening for me. A lot of people have rescuer parts of themselves that control and know how to show up when somebody is in distress. You know, a rescuing part doesn't really know how to do intimacy. They know how to do closeness by proximity of rescuing. Rescuing is not intimacy. Why? Because if I'm rescuing you, I never have to be seen. I never have to receive. I never have to open. Do you know what your romantic relationship is going to require of you? To open, to receive, to be seen, to let someone in. And that is very scary if that wasn't historically safe. So parts work is really important here. I want you to go listen to the episodes that I have on parts work. Come join You Make Sense. It's a program I have where we focus a lot on parts work. We'll link that in the show notes for you. And I can actually guide you through that process on what it looks like. But that is really, really important. And I want you to begin working with, and when you listen to the episodes, it'll help you a bit, with how do I get adult me online? Truest me, adult me. And get to know the part that is doing that rescuing and that controlling. Ask them, what are they afraid might happen if you stop doing this? What are they afraid might happen if you actually look at what's occurring in your relationship? What are they afraid might happen if you relinquish that role? The more we do this, the more those parts begin to see they're not alone. We have us here now. And because adult us is here, we can take the steering wheel and we can go, we don't have to avoid things anymore. We can go towards things that are scary because we know no matter what, we're going to be okay, including relinquishing that role of being a rescuer. A lot of us feel like our only value or worth in a relationship is rescuing. So the more that we can come into our adult self in wholeness, the more we can show those parts that as we are is enough without the rescuing. So let's get to the last question that we have today.
Hi, I'm also a mental health counselor, and I recently was introduced to your podcast and your work by a systematic therapist. And I'm actually interested a little bit in like health anxiety. So I have a couple clients who have some anxiety about their health, specifically, like they might have some undiagnosed illness, or they start to feel like a lump in their throat and think their throat might close up and they might end up dying. And I guess I'm curious a little bit about how that relates to the nervous system and how you would do nervous system work surrounding that. I'm assuming it's a perceived threat for them, obviously, but I guess I'm a little curious about how you would handle that. Thank you.
So there are two ways that our nervous system is deciding if we're safe or not. One is called neuroception, that is looking externally in our environment and surroundings to see if we're safe. And the other is called interoception, looking internally to see if we're safe. When people have health anxiety, they have a very strong impulse or hypervigilance towards interoception. And by the way, this is all happening subconsciously, reflexively, and what is not working internally. And so they're hypervigilant or hyper-focused on sensation, bodily sensation, and how that is a cue of danger. What I like to do with clients is first help them come out of that interoceptive focusing and focus externally on something in their environment first that is positive to them. Something that's benign as well, so not dangerous and has a positive quality. A pet, a tree, something on their table, whatever, something that's nice and pleasant. And then what I ask them to do is, as you notice that, can you please allow yourself to notice positive sensation arising in your body? And I usually will even begin with saying, like, what does that make you feel? And they might say, like, I don't know, it feels nice, feel calm. And then I'll ask them, what is telling you that you're calm? Or where do you notice the calmness in your body? See, when I think of somatic work, my job is to be the shepherd that ushers their system in doing what it inherently and biologically knows how to do, which is to pendulate. It's one of the things we're teaching it to do. Pendulate, meaning going from dysregulation to regulation. And I have to relearn how to do that. And we need support and relearn how to come into our bodies and experience interoception from a place of safety. So we use the external thing. Focus on something positive. What do I feel as a result of that? Peace, joy, it feels nice. Where does niceness live in your body, or what is telling you that in your body? I don't know, I feel warmth in my chest. Okay, notice the nice quality of that warmth. And their system will feel into probably a small amount. And what you will notice a few seconds later is they'll say, wait, my throat is closing. That's the pendulation. So they had an expansion of a moment into regulation. And then the nervous system says, I don't know if that's safe. I don't know if it's safe to be regulated. I have to be hypervigilant. And then they'll pendulate back into the dysregulation. We want to normalize that and say, that's very normal. This is what it's like to build capacity to come into regulation and notice goodness. So that exercise is very valuable for anybody listening. So not just for a clinician or coach or practitioner, for anybody who struggles with health anxiety or what's not working in our bodies. The other thing I want to say about health anxiety, when I feel out of control inside and I have unresolved trauma, there aren't words to describe what that's like. That is, in many ways, it's like annihilation. It's like hell on earth. It is never ending and all encompassing. So what our systems try to do is, how can I make sense of that? And although health anxiety doesn't feel very fun, does it? It actually gives me a sense of control. So if I'm having all of this terror inside, if I can make this about a disease, if I can get a diagnosis, like a lot of people will incessantly go to the doctor and there's almost relief when they're told they have something, because it gives me a sense of control when I have this out of control inside. And so what I really want to focus on is that overall regulation in my system. OCD is a symptom of dysregulation, and OCD is really a way to control all the different symptoms of OCD. Health anxiety, what is that? It's a way to control. So whether I'm incessantly going to the doctor and looking for diagnosis or what's wrong with me, or by the way, I'm avoiding it altogether. I never go. I have health anxiety, so I never go to the doctor. I never get my mammogram. I never fill in the blank. So what we have to do is begin titrating. What would it be like to lean towards that? Again, titrate away, so a little bit at a time. And if I am incessantly looking for a diagnosis, my job is to say, can I titrate not having the reflex to just call the doctor? And it's going to, at first, be very counterintuitive. And there's going to be parts that say this isn't safe. And our job is to see if I can tolerate a small amount. So all of those things will really help clients to begin, and us to begin shifting this internally. And when we do, because all the symptoms of health anxiety are symptoms, they're exactly that. The root of it is the dysregulation inside causing us a lack of feeling in control. Lastly, I want them to think about, what do I actually have control of? Like, I can stand up and sit down. I made that happen. I can make a fist and I can open it. I made that happen. What is it like to feel a sense of control? And let their body really absorb that and feel into it fully. All right, my friends, thank you for being here with me today. Think about it this week. Is there an area of my life where I am subtly low-key, or maybe not so low-key, controlling something? And what would it be like to really see if I can show my system I can let go just a little bit more? Not fully, but just a little bit. And we do that first, of course, by bringing regulation to our nervous system and then showing it, if I let go a little bit, everything will still be okay. One tolerable step at a time. Sending you lots of love. Remember, you make sense, all parts always. Enjoying this episode and want to go even deeper into somatic healing? You can join my email community for weekly teachings, tools, and live events. Click the show notes to join.